current state of business analysis? Do you have something in your mind? I definitely have one in mind. I also have a perspective on what are the trends for this profession, but that's just my perspective. I'm sure there are different perspectives out there, and that's what I'm looking for into this series of episodes of the Brazilian BA guests. So my guest today is transforming Africa through technology across multiple industry verticals, especially in finance. He has worked as a senior business analyst, business developer, and global trader in Nigeria. I welcome Kenneth Osigwe. I hope I have said it right.
Yeah, you did right.
Welcome, Kennedy. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome, Fabrizio. It's amazing. It's a privilege to be here. Great. Thank you.
I think we should start by talking about your background in business analysis. I know you're a senior business analyst at Ventura Garden. Tell me, how did you end up into business analysis?
I think the journey probably started 6 years ago. I was in my final year at school. I'm a major. I'm an accounting major. So I did accounting in school. I finished with my first class at Bafemi University, top university in Nigeria. And I spoke to myself. I felt like accounting wasn't it for me. It wasn't really. I couldn't express myself, right? I felt like there were so many rules around it, and I told myself I wasn't going to practice accounting, and I needed something else to fill that gap. And I started to go online to search, and then I stumbled on a competition in the university where we had to come up with business ideas through tech. And I went to the competition, and I came first place, right? So I joined the. So it's like a boot camp, right? So I joined the boot camp after winning. So I got trained. I understood how businesses work from a technology perspective, how we design products, how we talk to developers, and how So I was so surprised. Coming out of school, I was just first time ever seeing this, and I was so intrigued. I was so interested in how business and technology met. So I was like, you know what? I need to take this to the next level. So I worked with the Wema Bank. So the boot camp was held by Wema Bank, one of the top banks in Nigeria. So after working with them for about a year, I decided to go for that. I decided to learn, right? And then there was a tech academy in Nigeria then, a couple of years ago, Garden Academy. So I joined. I interned there for about 7 to 8 months. I learned all I could learn. I got certified. And when I got certified, I started to put things out there on LinkedIn. I just started to post and show people, when I learned business model Canva for the first time, I posted it out there. So every new thing I learned, I posted it. And I think a company saw me and they were like, you know what? We want to give you an opportunity to work with us. And, 4 years down the line, I'm here. Doing business analysis, and it has been an amazing journey so far. So I think it was born out of curiosity. I wanted to understand how business and technology could work, and that's why I'm here today, to be honest. So
Interesting. Let me try to understand your perspective on business analysis. If you could assemble a definition for the value or the purpose of business analysis, how would you frame that?
So, I'll give this disclaimer. First things first is that I've fallen so much in love with the definition of business analysis according to IIBA because I think it's the perfect definition. Because I have practiced it and I find it to be the perfect definition. And that's the ability to first identify a need. You need to be that person who you can find something that people need. That's the first thing I'll say. I'll say it's your ability to find a need and then find the value that need can satisfy. So it's not enough to just find a need. I need to know at the end of the day, what is the value behind that need? Is the need even valuable? Because there are a lot of needs in the world, right? But just a few of them are valuable. So when I find how valuable it is, I then want to know who are the stakeholders. So I'm going to go through how I see it first. So I see business analysis as that process of identifying the need, right? Understanding the value of that need, finding the stakeholders who that value would be appreciated by, because I need to know who the stakeholders are, right? Because it only makes sense within that. Stakeholders are, and I need to understand that within a certain context. Because as I mentioned to you, my business runs fintech, financial, AV tech. These are different contexts, different business contexts. So I need to understand the need, the value, the stakeholders within a context, right? Then I need to know what I need to do to create that value, the change, how I move from point A to point B. Because if I identify a need, it's not just enough. I need to make something happen to bring out the value. And that is the change, right? The change that needs to occur. Then I find out that change, ultimately delivering a solution. So if you see it, I've been able to take in the 6 core concepts and define what I believe business analysis is. And please note, it's a process. It's always going. It's not a one-time thing. It's always happening. You're always identifying needs. You're always looking for value. You're always speaking to stakeholders. You're always understanding the context. You're always looking at what change needs to happen, and you're always trying to deliver a solution. So I think that's my definition, and it's from a life proof of my everyday life of what I think business analysis is.
Right.
That's my definition.
One thing that caught my attention to this definition that you mentioned from IIBA, in your first perspective or the way you presented your career, is that the IIBA definition is not connected to technology. But you mentioned that how much important business analysis is to drive technology or to connect business and technology.
Yeah.
Would you put that as a boundary for when you're talking about business analysis? There must be technology on it, or this boundary does not exist? What's your perspective on that?
That's a beautiful question. So I think that I don't think that technology needs to be a boundary, but I'll explain to you the concept. As a business analyst, you're thinking of better ways to do stuff. Like that's how you're thinking. So, and the truth is that technology provides better way to do stuff. So it's almost a non-brainer that if you're going to do anything, if you want to amplify anything, any business, technology has to be involved, because anyone who utilizes technology would obviously, outsmart anyone who doesn't use technology. So I think that in the core sense of it, we are not just blindly adding technology. We're adding technology because technology provides the ability to do things better, to provide value better, to provide solutions better, to make change faster. So I think that technology only comes in play, not just because it has to be tech, but because tech made things better. So I think that ultimately, tech is not, I don't see it as a boundary, but as an amplifier. Right. to business analysis. Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it. Not a boundary, but an amplifier of business, or at least for the kind of solutions that we can provide for business that generates greater value. I like that. Interesting. So let me bring you to your practice of a day to day. Like you were working as a senior business analyst. How business analysis practiced in your organization? If I'm gonna see you working on a day-to-day job, what am I going to see?
Yeah, so they're different because of how fast-paced the fintech space is. So you're going to be needed in different spaces. So I'm going to give you some different areas in which I play in day to day. So one of the areas that depending on my company's context, I work is documentations, and I think that was earlier on in my career where I'm required to come up with user stories, the PRD, FRD, business model canvas. So a lot of documentation. So I'm either working on it, I'm reviewing it, something done from probably previous business analyst. I'm trying to make it make sense, or I'm trying to present it to an engineering team or developer team. So that's usually one thing. So you would see me every day either creating new documentations or reviewing existing documentations, so that we can either come up with a new doc. So that's the first thing you see me do. Also, by extension, you would obviously see me have a lot of meetings, right? You would see me talk to different customers, which is external. You see me talk to the management of the company to understand what they are trying to achieve. You see me just trying to facilitate sessions where I'm gathering as much information I need to deliver a certain kind of value, depending on what task I'm given. So, I'm going to be having multiple meetings, and which I see as that information gathering, either through interviews, through meetings, or things like that. And I think I also find myself do financial analysis, and this is just because I had a background in accounting. So the company obviously would utilize that. So you would see me do things like quarterly board reports, where I go through the financials and I communicate really important financial metrics like your EBITDA, your gross profits, your net profits, what is our sales, what is our gross turnover value. So I help identify what are those key metrics that the senior management needs to see. So I would work with the finance department to bring out those really, really important metrics. And lastly, strategy. You see me formulating strategy, but this doesn't happen day to day. This would happen probably quarterly or half yearly, where I either review the strategy for the quarter. How well are we doing? Are we doing good? Do we need to tweak the strategy? Are there new assumptions that affect our strategy? Do we need to come up with new ones? So I think those are the 4 areas you see me play: documentations, coming up with documentations, meetings, talking with stakeholders, trying to understand what's going on. You would see me also play in doing financial analysis, trying to come up with good financial analysis for the company. And lastly, as I mentioned, I kind of forgotten it. Strategy. Thank you so much. So those are the 4 areas where I would play as a business analyst.
You said you have this background in accounting, so you're very skilled to do financial analysis. I wonder if other BAs in your company come with another kind of skills that help them to do business analysis and apply those skills into the way they're looking for the business. Do you see that in some other?
I see that. So I had an intern that I trained a couple of years ago, and he's also a top analyst at the company, and he had his background in engineering. And his superpowers is process. He knows processes. Like, he can map out whatever process you need. I struggle with processes. I'm not so good at processes. I would struggle. Processes would confuse me. But he sees a diagram, and in a couple of seconds, is able to spot where the errors are, where the issues are, how we can be better, because he's an engineer. So he understands things like that. So I think that's one scenario where I've seen people taking transferred competitive advantage from their fields into business analysis. I think that's one that I know of.
And that's interesting, how people can bring their own skills or different perspectives and how to analyze the business and between that purpose that you described about business analysis, understanding the needs from different perspectives, using different skills and proposing valuable changes or different solutions. That's an interesting one. And when you see business analysts working in your company, would you say that who are hiring those business analysts have a high understanding about what they're going to do, or is there a difference between what BAs are hired to do and what do they really do in practice day by day? Is there a connection, or are they aligned, or are those things different?
So I think that from my early days, so I'm talking 4 or 5 years ago, it used to be aligned. So your JD usually would be what you do. But as time goes by, When the company sees that, oh, you can be more efficient in other places, then they start to move you. For example, you could see that my current experience on LinkedIn is business development. So I no longer really do fundamentally what BAs do again. So I'm doing business development because the senior management has seen that this guy knows how to talk to clients. This guy knows how to close clients. So why are we keeping him as a BA? Please let's move him from there. So it's the company ends up seeing where you're good at and rather utilize you there than BAs. Because usually BAs are how I know or how I grew up with the mentality is BAs are just behind the screens, right? You're just you're doing documents, you're doing this, you're not really interacting with people. You're not really influencing how much money the company makes. You're like, you can easily hide behind models, you can hide behind documents, you can hide behind analysis. But when push comes to shove, we really don't see business analysts again. So what I would say to just answer your question is, at the initial phase of your employment, there is alignment. But over time, the company starts to see, can this guy be used somewhere else? Can we use him where we have a deficiency, and they would move you to that department, and you just have the BA name for the namesake.
And that makes an interesting point here that I'm hearing from you. You told me about your day-to-day, and you told me about what this is the work of business, and you told me about 4 different jobs that you do. And you said, I started by documenting. And I'm understanding that is where the juniors start, as documenters, someone who is creating documents, the specifications or something like that. And then you said, and then I have to do meetings. Exactly, if I want to document something, I have to gather information. You use that expression. IIBA, you use the word elicitate information. That's the same idea. So, and I have to talk to people, and I became more skilled into the business. You have a specific skill that is the accounting skill, so you do financial analysis. So there's something higher than documenting, is making an analysis about what you're looking for. And the last one you said is strategy. Probably junior BAs are not doing strategy. They're not doing this deep analysis. Your colleague you mentioned is doing process analysis, you're doing financial analysis. I would say there are several different types of analysis deep into the business. So as the role evolves into organizations, you start doing different things, specializing into different areas, using your special skills to create better value for your organization.
Yes.
And at some point, and that's what makes me curious, you're not called business analyst anymore. You're called some other name.
Yes, of course, another name. So the thing is, so it depends. So if you check the employees organogram, right, you would still see me as a senior business analyst, but by function, I'm not a business analyst. Like if you look at what I do or what I'm really being paid for, they are not the regular business analyst role, because I've evolved. So it will now then take time for the company to say, okay, you know what, we need to change his description from this to this, because they do some testing. They try to test you in different spaces to see where you click. So once you click there for usually after like 12 months, then they affirm that position to you, and then you most likely no longer become a business analyst anymore. You then become whatever new stuff that you become.
Let me try to understand it clearly. When you say I'm not a business analyst anymore, or I'm not doing business analysis anymore, you say I'm not anymore uniquely responsible for documenting, but
Yes.
you're still related to that value that you proposed at the beginning, that is understanding the needs, identifying stakeholders, what is valuable for them. So that you're still doing, but that's very broadly.
Yes.
But your deliverables, let's use that name, you're not anymore responsible for just creating deliverables or documents. You're responsible
Yes,
for something higher that creates more value for your organization.
that's very correct. That's very, very correct. Very
Interesting.
correct.
So I know we are in a time of big changes. There's AI coming, so their methodologies are changing. People are working into different ways. Do you see any trend for the profession of business analysts into the scenario that we are living today? How do you see the profession evolving from when you started to now, and what do you see to the future?
I think what I see is that, as you said, the trend is that people are now specializing as they evolve in business analysis, because business analysts are context specific. You see a business analyst in the agricultural space and fintech, they are doing two different things entirely. So they may still manage the fundamentals, which are obviously the business analyst core concept models, right? So those may still be there, but when you look at how they engage, two different. So I think that's one of the trend that over time the business analysts, profession will need to accommodate that, that diversity across, different, industries. And there are industries coming up every single day. Industries are coming up every single day. We didn't have AI 5 years ago. We have AI now as a new industry. So, and industries are still coming up every single day. So I think that one major trend that I see is that business analysts would need to learn specialization, because generic BAs don't grow so well in a company, because your value is limited. What you can provide to a company is limited, and a company will only promote you based on your values, based on the direct values you bring. So if you just sit down, oh, I have my IIBA certificate, I have this, but you're not really delivering value to the business, then over time, I think that's the trend that we'll see. That it won't be about your certificates no more. It will be about how good is this guy in this field. So if you're coming from fintech and you have your IIBA, you have your CBAP, you have everything, and you're coming to agriculture, they're asking themselves, but you know nothing about agriculture. So I'm not sure I even want to employ you. I rather employ someone who has 2 years in agriculture, who understands it, than employing someone who has 10 years in a different field that is even certified. So I believe that trend will happen, because everyone is looking for value. What value can you bring directly? So that's my thought.
Okay, interesting. And independently, you're saying every business analyst have a context domain or something that where they create value, but there's something that's general that would be applied for any context or any industry. What are the competences do you believe are expected from a good BA into this generic area? So competences that every BA should share, or senior BA. Let's put it in a higher level.
Yes, I think one thing is curiosity. You have to be curious. Like I've never seen any BA or any senior BA that isn't curious. Like, I want to know why. Like, before you ask me, I'm asking you already why. Like, why is this way? Why do you want this change? Why do you want that? I need to know why. So curiosity is one big thing for me. I think second skill set is communication. You need, like, it sounds fundamental. It sounds it should be, but communication is key. It's a skill set. Your ability to listen, your ability to relay information. These are like very, very important skill set that can make or mar a BA. That's why you see a BA walk into a room, get some information out. Another BA walks into the same room, the same people, the same thing, and walks out with something different. It's communication. The guy asks the right questions. He listened to the right things. He asked the right people the right questions. So I think communication is a really, really important thing. So inquisitiveness, communication. And I think lastly, with problem solving. Your brain thinks problem. How do I solve? How do I solve? what's the next thing I do to solve? So I think these are three broad things that you see in any senior BA today, and you know that they're good. They'll definitely be top. So those are my sincere top three.
Curiosity, communication, and problem-solving skills. Very good. Kennedy, thank you very much. We're going to the end of this episode. If someone who watched us want to connect with you, know more about you, where can they find you?
I think you can find me on LinkedIn. I think that's like where I'm at. I will respond as fast as possible on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. So if you need mentorship, you want to connect, you want to get something happening, I'm there. I'm open for impact. I really just want to make sure that I live an impactful life. I think that's where I'm at. So anyone wants to reach out, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Kenneth Osigwe, and I'll pop up.
And I will include a link for LinkedIn below this video so people can click and easily find
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me, Osigwe. And for those who are watching these episodes, there are other episodes coming. So we are trying to connect different perspectives from business analysts all around the world that are my guests, like Kennedy today, my Brazilian BA guests. Thank you very much, Kennedy. See you around.
Yeah, bye.